Good morning all. Thank you for tuning in to this webinar on sex appeal, tips for marketing product to men. Really excited to be here this morning, and I'm going to take you through some of our learnings of a meta-analysis that we've done over what companies do to market to men, and specifically how this can be done more effectively, playing to the differences in how men and women behave and how they look like they receive information, or in marketing terms, how they like to be marketed at. So we've seen this women are from Venus and men are from Mars expression multiple times. It may have begun as a showbiz phrase coined to entertain, but it certainly holds a lot of truth and could not be more apt at describing the differences in sex appeal when it comes to consumer behavior. This is just not fiction. And it's not entertainment, but it's actually scientifically proven. As many of you know, currently very hot marketing and research topic is thinking fast and slow from Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman. He describes system 1 as fast, intuitive, and emotional, and system 2 as slower, more deliberate, and more logical. And it's clearly also proven from that theory that there are many differences between women and men and how they use their brain, different parts of their brain specifically. As you may know, the right brain is a slightly bit more male-dominated on average. What the right brain does is it mainly is in charge of spatial abilities, face recognition and processing music. We do know it performs some math, but only rough estimations and comparisons. The right brain really helps us to comprehend visual imagery and to make sense of what we see. It plays a role in language, particularly in interpreting context and a person's tone. Of course, also left brain is predominantly assigned to a little bit more female, on average that is. What the left brain does is it's more dominant in language. We really process what we hear and handling most of the time with our left brain. Which is also in charge of carrying out logic and exact mathematical computations. When you need to retrieve a fact, your left brain pulls it away from your memory. Now, this is just an introduction. This webinar is not about the theory of neuroscience and gender differences, but it will give you some practical clues how we as marketeers can be more relevant with marketing to men, or specifically to the women that buy for these men. This is becoming more and more important as the male cosmetics and also the beauty products and health products have been on the rise for some time now. You will obviously see that with all the products that you see around you, particularly since the mid-20s, this has really been in our day-to-day advertising world on TV and print, and also as part of our jobs, we see these markets grow globally very fast. It's not just personal care products such as grooming, creams or shampoos or styling products, and even male beauty salons that we currently see, but also we see more and more health products such as male dental paste or products that support the heart, the brain with vitamins, male contraception, or also called male enhancements such as the example Viagra, etc. You just have to watch the latest ads. I can refer you to a couple I've seen in the UK or the Netherlands lately about Prodent and how the male smile attracts its female counterpart. It's very similar to the appeal that we've seen from deodorant Axe, where the boyish deodorant users really hope for that female attention, and obviously it's very efficient and working. So the male category, it's not new, it's growing, but the question we'd like to answer here as well is the marketing also getting more effective? Typically, in the last decade, is in personal care and healthcare markets, we see stereotypes being used when it comes to men. On the one side, we see the hetero. It's very classic, drinking beer, eating burgers, overly buffoonish. On the slide here, it's represented by the Marlboro cowboy, which I thought was he's very tanned, he's even smoking. I don't think these days that's really acceptable anymore, but this is how we started marketing to men. On the other hand, what we've seen quite a lot is the so-called metro male archetype, which is often more used in fragrance, styling, or fashion ads. This particular stereotype was much more born from a female extension into the man's world. Think of all the ad messages that portray the man either as buffoonish or as overly feminized. I think this is still the majority today. What we've seen more and more is that in truth, most men are actually in between. And also, research has shown that a majority of these men do not really relate to those two stereotypes. So I think lots of companies start to realize that they need to segment their market much more specifically. And in the last few years, I think we can see advertising that represents that multidimensional males rather than the stereotype. I've mentioned already the Axe advert where they target the average guy. It's not that guy is not particularly handsome, not particularly smart or hot or muscular. It's more the average guy. P&G also thought about, you can see with the Perfect Dad commercial, and also if you look in the USA with the Super Bowl ad lately, the ad for Nissan, you can really see that they focus on the dad, which is really the struggling, hardworking dad that strives to be with his close-knit family and togetherness. So it's not really the stereotype anymore. They really try to give that more specific detail and in between the stereotypes. So there's plenty of examples of those, but clearly not the men are different from women. But do they also have something in common? We see a long-term term here which is called self-gratification. This trend is really we see as joining both female and men together. Self-gratification is a desired outcome that has been present for decades, but it's been now more persuasive as a driver of buying behavior in the last few years, particularly in Western societies. As they get richer, have more spending power, and consumers buy more products for themselves. However, we're not here to focus on the commonalities. We focus here on the differences, and we clearly see that men are cutthroat, competitive, and very goal-oriented. So clearly, the marketing to them has to be very different. So in order to make personal care and healthcare marketing more effective, we think marketers must focus first on who's making the actual purchase. Is it the man in question, or is it his leading lady? It's often the first decision of any marketeer to determine his or her target market, but often forgotten in a personal or consumer care marketing. As we will see with the tips that we will share, it will make a big difference, not just between the gender differences, man versus woman, but also the difference for women that buy for themselves versus women that buy for their men. The attributes or benefits they are looking for in those different situations are very different too. So what we've done is a meta-analysis of our communication messages across a number of categories, including beauty, personal care, and healthcare, and we've derived 4 tips to keep in mind when creating claims and communication messages for men and for the women that buy for them. So let's go through those tips. Tip number 1, don't make feminine benefits masculine. Research has shown that gender contamination, which is a term that is formulated by the Harvard Business School lecturer Jill Avery, is prevalent in modern advertising. It occurs when one gender symbolizes a brand for itself. Examples of this are on the slide. Cliniques Men Supplies, Biotherm Home, L'Oréal Paris for men, or Dove Men. They're all traditional female brands that focus on extending their brand and their femininity into masculine realms. So Avery found that men fear being interpreted as feminine more so than women being interpreted as masculine. I always personally compare it with the Tomb Raider example of Lara Croft, who really exemplifies the female boyish style action hero, which developed into a very, very successful series and a cult. While movies of males that are interpreted as more feminine that did not really occur yet or take off yet. So I think this is something that we have to realize. And ultimately, these brands that you see on the slides are very successful brands, but perhaps we can say despite their initial way of marketing. So men really like to hear benefits that are functional and relevant to them. They need their body washed to clean, wash away the dirt, or their face to wash to cleanse. On the right, an example of a good claim could be for a man, leave the skin feeling clean. So focus on the functional benefits. Women, on the other hand, would prefer more descriptive articulations that bring the products to life. For instance, with moisturizing, supple skin, nourishment, and other adjectives aimed to make them aspire. This is also both men and women look for self-gratification, as I mentioned was common, but clearly here, the way of gratification is much more aspirational. Even when women buy for them, promise of the product working and leaving a good result. So, for instance, leaves hair smooth and shiny, or leaves skin slightly scented. Those are claims that can appeal to women for themselves, or bring to life how they would like their men to look like or smell. So this is more a combination of benefits which appeal to the women themselves, but also the more functional benefits that appeal to the men they're buying for. Tip number 2, prevent the emotional negative. So marketing is obviously about digging deeper than to learn what men actually want for themselves. It is also to understand their emotions better. And as mentioned in number 1, men focus very clearly on the functional elements. So a razor must be rust-proof, or an aftershave must eliminate razor burn and be cooling. So the common elements here suggest that for marketeers to be effective, they need to talk about the emotional connect to prevent a negative. So men fear of the negative. In this case, they would fear of balding or razor burn or dried out post-workout hands. And it's our job as marketeers to make sure that we market effectively by avoiding the emotional negative to this man. So also, we need to be specific. The emotional insight here is that men pursue these functional benefits, but they do so because they want to avoid the negative. So although men are more willing to hear about dandruff prevention when purchasing a shampoo, it's important to be specific in what the negatives are prevented. So in our example here which we made up on the right hand side, for clean and flake-free hair. So very clear what the benefit is and to avoid the negativity of having dandruff. On the left hand side, another example is soothe skin to prevent razor burn. So very specific, using an emotional functional benefit. Also be specific, use directive language. So particularly when sensitive topics such as hair fall, men perceive that products should correct. Again, implying a fix and divisions from a negative. Women aspire for products to revitalize and strengthen hair, and particularly when they buy for their men, they continue to look for something that can be visualized. A fuller scalp would appeal to a woman because she can envision this on her man, and it brings the benefit to life. Okay, tip number 3, give men the power of proof. Men are not browsers. As I know from personal experience, we try to focus on the needs of the moment, compared to women who can dwell and ponder and continue to shop later. So they are more inclined to purchase a product that's, men are more inclined to purchase a product that's size-proof versus simply a promise of, for instance, softness. So having 3 powerful nutrients, or having multivitamin plus protein, for example, and making this specific is really appealing to the notion for men. And please note, using simplicity in the usage of these claims, or even the physical plus sign is also a meaning of using these numbers or adding the claims together, adding the benefits of the claim together. So such claims are often making the product more unique too. And obviously, as marketeers, that's what we're looking for, right? More USPs. So these are very effective ways of marketing more effectively. Please be careful using extreme numbers. So saying absolutely 100% a blockage of a negative or mixing a large number damps believability. On the other extreme, saying that you just prevent 25% of something seems really, tepid and is not really emotional. So it's a very fine art. It's a balancing act. But overall research has shown that men are noticeably more driven by numbers than women. And here I come back to the right brain function mentioned in the introduction as well. So for women buyers who buy for their men, another benefit is important. Women know that men spend less time than themselves on personal care. Hence, speed and convenience is of use, and it is a big factor in searching for male products. Very specific. Okay, so now we come to the last tip of this morning, tip number 4. While shopping, men decide when product attributes matter and work via a method of elimination to find what they want. On the other hand, women combine different elements to reach a more wholesome decision. This is clearly a difference in approach and results in different way that gender perceive their time while shopping. And again, the cause can be found in also the different brain sizes and brain sizes, different likelihoods of male and men to use different parts of their brain. Men tend to prevent long-lasting benefits. For example, with hair styling products. Example is a 24-hour delivery of benefits is really motivating, as it conveys a notion of being hassle-free across the day. Women, however, regardless of whether they are buying for themselves or for their men in their lives, they're inclined to achieve more the right look. So they would rather invest in the perfection as opposed to a long-term hold and staying power, even when they shop for their own men. On the topic of perfection, men are more likely to respond to healthy messages than women, who seem to prefer a product that amplify the beauty quotient. So even when shopping for their men, women prefer to see products that will enhance appearance and make their men better looking. Men, on the other hand, they prefer a more healthy, let's say, natural look. So case in point, a woman is more likely to prefer a body wash product that claims nourish your skin with a rich lather and even more of our gentlest cleansers, while an identical men's product is likely to have more successful claim on the right-hand side here, fight skin dryness to help maintain skin balance. So clearly you can see here, make the benefit healthy and lasting for men and focus on health, not necessarily beauty, is more appealing to men. So in conclusion, make the benefit healthy and lasting, give men more proof, avoid the emotional negative, and don't try to make feminine benefits masculine. Those are the 4 tips that we wanted to share today. And in conclusion, we can say that both men and women are driven to self-gratify, but that men buy products themselves and they emote differently. Naturally, that doesn't mean that this research says that women are unemotional. The descriptive wording and the visual nuances are rather at a more advanced stage of emotional decision making. So men and women emote differently, and women are looking for more aspirational ways to drive self-gratification, while men exhibit their emotion in overcoming a negative more. We've recently, or we recently, there was an article published about this topic in global cosmetic industry a month ago. So if you want the more detail, you're welcome to read that, download it, or ask us. So are men from Venus and men from Mars? Well, I don't know that, but I think that all the cosmetics and health products make us men look good and definitely more healthy. Also, it's safe to say that to a large degree the modern man has broken with the 20th century stereotype and has emerged as a species that is more and more interested in looking good, perhaps even trying to be good. So thank you very much for listening. I'll now hand over back to Abby and answer any questions if you have any.
Fantastic, thank you. Yeah, so we have time now for questions. If you haven't asked yours yet, go ahead and pop it in. I'm going to start off with the first question. So since men fear the emotional negative, I think this was in tip 1, and women like emotional claims, can we suggest that they are both motivated emotionally?
That's a good question. Thanks for asking that one. Yeah, very valid point. Clearly, emotions are important. They're also a little bit of a buzzword right now. As I recall, we actually did a webinar earlier this year about emotions, where we say it's more important. Suffice to say at this stage is that both men and women are very emote equally, but they emote differently. It's actually important to as we've seen in particular tip number 2, it is also important to make sure that we do have a very emotional messages also to men, because that makes our claims both to men and to women more effectively. Mm. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you.
Any others?
Yeah, let's take one more. So is there a difference between older men and younger men is the question, I think, when working with more senior guys. Do you need to speak to them differently?
That's also a good one. There are differences. We see sometimes that the older men have a little bit more experience, so they need to be reminded a little bit about some claims, while with younger men you can get away with more, describing with the benefits more directly. I would say overall the differences between men are much smaller than the differences between men and women. Overall, we see more differences between men and women than within the...
Between ages.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. I hope that answers your question. Let's take one more. So they ask, what if my product is not fulfilling a negative benefit like razor burn or anti-dandruff? So how can I prevent from talking about, when they say fluff, I think they mean nice things, marketing fluff.
Yeah, that's true. Not all products towards men will target solving a problem. Very, very true. However, as we've seen, is men like to know exactly and specifically what the benefit is. So if it's cleaning or cleansing, simply leaves your skin cleaner, then men can know that work perfectly well. So men are also, I think, getting used to moisturization and other such benefits that once belong to the female realm. So there's also really a shift in what's perceived as feminine versus masculine. Yeah, so I think, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I think then it's more about that guy that's sort of, the real guy is in the middle, that side. I've got a question here. So men and women are different, and you have to reach them differently, but is it possible to reach them via a common thing? So to be specific, is it possible to talk to both via one piece of communication?
Yeah, that's very good, and we've seen some examples. I shared a few this morning, where you can address the female buyer buying for her man. So you some suggestions is that you address or you build claims that comprehend both benefits. Right. So yes, it's possible. Also, what's possible is that we know bigger drivers or motivators, such as self-gratification, go a level higher. So obviously, we know the commonalities between men and women. They both look for self-gratification, but they express it in different ways. So you could think in building claims that express these different ways, still addressing how to self-gratify. So yes, it's possible. However, as a marketeer, it's all about segment, target, and position. So that's always a balance to how niche will you go with your specific target and be very efficient and effective there versus we don't have all that money or effort. It's not possible to segment that niche, and we don't want to do that, and therefore we're going to go one level up and try to combine it. So certainly possible. Also, as long as you really address their different way of perceiving and the different ways of getting to self-gratification.
Great.
Any more
I think that's it for questions. If you didn't have a chance to answer your question, I mean, here's Robert's details. Also visit our website, or you can connect with us online or on Twitter or anything. We'd be happy to answer more questions about this topic. And I want to thank you all for joining us again today. I will send around slides and a recording of the session. I know a few of you jumped in a few minutes late. Don't worry, we'll be able to send you the slides and you can watch back that first portion. Also, please, again, have a look at that GCI, Global Cosmetics Industry Magazine article that is about this topic as well, maybe goes into a few of the insights a bit further. That's on our website as well. You can just search sex appeal and you'll come across that article. And please feel free to share it with any of your colleagues. And also visit skimgroup.com/webinars, or just go to skimgroup.com and on the top header menu, click on webinars. And there you can sign up for updates on our monthly sessions. Next month, we're going to be presenting on in-the-moment research. And so it's related to mobile research. It's a really interesting topic. And we'll be opening that up for registration fairly soon. So on behalf